The old you might have swung through Starbucks for a 350 calorie latte. The new you saved on both money and calories and got to walk in and got the same effect. So get your steps in. Seriously.
I don't want to be a pain to the restaurant. The restaurant is there to serve you food. You have a right to what you want and your goals with the food that is there. So just ask.
I'm about to walk up to the cash register and I can either make a choice that is going to be in line with my goals here, or I can make a choice that is going to make it really hard to stick with what I'm trying to make happen. The airport is like a weird fictional multiverse.
That's why I fly out early in the morning, because I'm like, I can't order a Bloody Mary. One of the things I will tell people, who travel often or going on vacation is that let's talk about your goals and how to fit these things in, and just know that maybe I'm not choosing the most ideal thing here, but I may never be back at this place.
Like, just because your session is 12 weeks doesn't mean your effort is 12 weeks. I might need to meme that. That was good.
Welcome to Stronger You Radio with Mike Dola. Join Mike and friends as they discuss issues to keep you healthy, fit, and on track to create a stronger you. Let's listen in now.
What's up, Stronger You fam? Welcome back to another edition of Stronger You Radio. I am your host today, Tanner Bays. Today I'm talking with my good friend, Robbie Farlow. We're going to be going over a blog that Robbie put together for us that I think is highly useful to all of us who have ever been on a plane, train, or an automobile. Today we're going to be talking about how to travel and stay on plan. So what's up, Farlow? How you doing, man?
There's baloney in my shoes. Anyone, since you made the trains, planes, and automobile reference, I had to bring in a classic Steve Martin line. Yeah. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you jumping on here to talk with me about this one. More than that, I appreciate you just like taking the helm on talking about all things travel, because that's been a glaring hole for us that we haven't touched on.
Yeah, and it seems to be something I talk a lot with my clients about. The last year hasn't been as travel intensive as I had been a year prior. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I guess it kind of was. I did move from North Carolina to New York. But, travel is something I've gotten really good at since I, enter the realm of being an online entrepreneur and starting all that and going to networking events and business events and all that stuff. And I have a lot of clients, who travel, and I get sent a lot of clients who travel because the strategies I presented here are the same strategies I've been using with all of my clients. What up, Team McAwesome? They've all used them and benefited from them. So I might as well, share it with the rest of the Stronger You community. Yeah, no,
we all benefit because you did. And, I want to jump into it because something I really like about this is this whole strategy that you go over and lay out is built kind of in two parts. It's like the grander 30,000 foot view, and then the down in the weeds action items, right? So, and we kind of break these down as like, we're talking about boulders and gravel. So let's go ahead and touch on the boulders first. And the point I want to make, and reiterate or add whatever you want here, is whenever we're talking about boulders or the big, hairy things that you want to think about whenever you're traveling, we want to think about these things as like general guidelines that govern all of your decision making and how you approach a given day or meal or whatever it is whenever you're on the road, right?
Yeah.
So the first one you kind of lay on for us here is as simple as it can be, and that's what I love about this whole blog, is plan ahead. Talk to me more about it.
One of the things I've noticed when you travel is you're staying somewhere. Hotel. If it's for business, you might know that like, okay, we have a lunch break this day. We're at this conference center, or you're going to dinner with a client at this certain restaurant. Maybe you've picked it, your assistant has picked it, or your client picked it. So you know where that stuff is. If you're staying for longer than, say, 3 days, you might have a microwave in your hotel. Maybe you're staying at an Airbnb. The biggest thing you can do is, first, if you know you're going to eat out, look up that restaurant. Look at their menu. Instead of going to Facebook, go search Google, for Mama Pat's Pizzeria. Like, go look and see if they have their menu online. If they have it there, great. then you can take a look at it and see if there's anything that's ideal for you to choose. If it's like a big chain restaurant, that might be a chain in that state. If you go to Texas and there's a Whataburger, like you can look the Whataburger up in MyFitnessPal. So maybe it's a chain. You can find something. If you're in Georgia, Mellow Mushroom. And they're in North and South Carolina too, but they have their nutrition facts. Like some of these places that are local to certain states are still chains in that state. So you can still find that nutrition information. So look those things up. If you are staying in an Airbnb, look for grocery stores nearby that you can get some things. Maybe you just cook your breakfast every morning. Choose those things. Instacart can deliver. Some other grocery stores deliver now as well. Make sure you have access to a fridge. One of the biggest things I will tell my clients is if you know you're staying at a hotel, call the hotel and ask them what's in the room. Do you have a microwave? Great. Do you have a refrigerator? Cool. If you have a refrigerator and a microwave, you can stock stuff for breakfast that you can eat in the morning that's not the fake bacon and fake powdered eggs that the hotel supplies. And then if you go out for dinner, you can eat half your entree, put it in a to-go box, and then take it with you the next day. And maybe that's the meal you eat for breakfast, or maybe it's what you eat for lunch the next day, or maybe it's what you eat as you hurry out to get your flight. So find out if you have those two things. If you know you're going to have dinners, cocktail hours, other social events, you want to think about how you want to handle yourself that day as well as that night. So plan ahead. Assume there's going to be booze. I'm not very good when booze is around and I'm with clients and whatnot. Then you've got to plan what your actions are going to be. I'm only going to allow myself 3 drinks. If you're paying for those drinks, take $20 in cash and leave your cards at home. Once the $20 is gone, no more drinks for me. And then just don't accept drinks from other people, which is always a hard thing to say because people want to buy you drinks.
We can't really stress enough to folks is that like whenever we talk about planning ahead, we're not just talking about like planning your meals ahead. Like if you can do that, that's great. But whenever we're talking about planning ahead, we're talking about planning what are all of my potential meal options? Where can I ensure that I make a good choice? What are the things that are nearby? How can I put something into action here that's going to help me stay on point? Right? Like planning ahead is a grander philosophy that you take to your entire trip. Therein lies the point that like we want you to be able to understand here is if you do that and you start thinking about things that way, travel becomes this stress-free experience because you've already thought through the contingencies. Like option A is not there. Cool. I know option B. It's all, I already know what it is. I'm good. Right. And if you're not stressing about that, like you go to bed feeling happier because you ate in the way that you know you wanted to. When you come back from your trip, you're still moving along the way that you want to. You know, like it's just important to recognize that like those are things that just allow you to live an easier life.
Yeah.
Now, number 2, whenever we're talking about the big boulders, the underlying philosophies of traveling, walking. Now, this is one that I will personally admit I haven't done as much of the past month or 2 as I would like to. But that's because I live in Austin, Texas, and it's currently 140 million degrees outside. So I'm not walking as much as I would like to. But anytime you and I have ever traveled together anywhere, which we've done a number of times, I think it's probably fair to say that like we can almost always count on like we're going to knock out roughly like 12 to 15,000 steps a day. Easy, huh?
Yeah. I mean, we don't like, if we know, and this comes from having both lived in New York City, like, 10 blocks, not that big of a deal. I'm not getting in an Uber. Now our downfall is, they got scooters? Like now that's the big downfall because they're so much fun. And we had so much fun on them in San Diego that like we might not get as many steps in the future because scooters are everywhere.
Yeah.
But even in Austin, like we still got a lot of steps in, every day. I had a client today who is traveling and she texted me and was like, hey, traveling today, and we were checking in about stuff. And then she was like, okay, I got to go. My flight just got pushed back again. I have got to walk. I'm going to walk up and down this airport. And I was like, yes, good. She's like, I got to stay active. So if you're in airports, like, look, sit down, eat some food if you have to, or walk. Just walk around. Take your luggage with you. I'm that weird guy who will walk from one end all the way to the other because I know I'm going to be on a 4-hour flight, and sitting for 4 hours upsets my hips. It makes me cranky. So just walk. If you're going to Europe, you're going to do a whole lot of walking. If you're going to New York City, you're going to do a whole lot of walking. That might not be the case if you're going to like rural areas, but even then I would urge you, get outside, breathe in some nature.
Right.
Good for you. But when you have the option to walk, even if it's going to take you 10 more minutes, just take the walk. Do it.
We as Americans tend to like neglect the joy of walking, I guess you could say. Like in like the season, depending on if it's summer or winter or whatever, does make it a challenge. Like it can make it miserable to be out. But walking like is an inherently good for you activity, and it's a recharging activity. Like, I think that's something that we don't address enough, is that like if you need a pick-me-up in your day, or like you're feeling tired or lethargic or whatever, don't ever underestimate what the power of like a 15-minute walk can do for you. Because that literally can be a game changer. Like you get up, you get your blood flowing, you're moving, you're getting steps in, and all of a sudden it's like 15 minutes later, like whereas the old you might have swung through Starbucks or a 350-calorie latte, the new you saved on both money and calories and got to walk in and got the same effect. So, get your steps in. Seriously. It happens to be actually good for you.
And if you are traveling, like let's say it is vacation, or even for work, like if you have some downtime, like adventure, man, like there's so many amazing things you can discover in a city by just walking. Like every neighborhood in New York feels different, and they're 8 blocks apart, because walking from one end to the other legitimately can sometimes feel like you're on a completely different planet.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I think like when you and I were in San Diego, like what was that, 7 months ago? I think we both really enjoyed the idea of like walking around that neighborhood, because we just got to learn more about it, right? Like we got to see a different place, and like you just get a feel for a place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next one, this is one that, again, you and I intimately know well. Front loading your protein as like a big boulder to focus on whenever you're on the road. I think this is a fail-safe strategy that a lot of Stronger You members know intimately and know well. But there's definitely something to be said for starting the day off with 30 to 50 grams of protein, right? Like doesn't it just make the rest of the day so much easier?
It makes it so much easier, especially if you have early flights. If I have a flight before 8 a.m., like I'm not eating breakfast until I get to my destination. But if you have a later flight, if you're driving, get as much protein as you can at breakfast, because it's going to stay in your system longer and keep you less hungry. And that means you're going to be less likely to be like, oh, let me get this $11 sandwich at the airport that's not filling. It kind of tastes disgusting. And I question not only why I bought it, but the sanity of the person who bought it. Eat as much as you can. You can do it with Greek yogurt. You can do it with eat chicken. Guys, no one says you can not eat chicken breast or a steak in the morning. Like, eat whatever you want. But get 30 to 50 grams. You'll stay fuller. And that gives you more. If you can really stick it to just protein and even the vegetables, that's going to give you more room to play with that dinner when you go out with clients, or that lunch meeting that you have. It gives you more flexibility for those things, so you don't have to necessarily feel like the social pariah who's like, can I get boiled chicken and fresh cut broccoli? So front load the protein.
And don't feel weird if what that means for you is actually just like eating a fistful of deli meat to start your day, because we've both done it. We both stayed with Mike in places. And I mean, I remember one of the first times I went on a trip with Mike. We went to the grocery store and he stocked up on nothing but deli meat. And I was like, what are you doing? Are you about to eat a lot of sandwiches? And he's like, no, man, just so I can have protein early in the day. And I was like, that's genius. Like, yeah. Good. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Like, why?
And you roll up the ham or the turkey and you kind of eat it like a meat stick. There's some there's texture to it, but there's also heft to it. Like it's a lot to chew. So you don't feel like you're just eating nothing.
Yeah. So number 4, whenever we're talking about big boulders while traveling, and this one I feel like is easier said than done for a lot of folks, but look, where possible, opt for veggies, yo. Seriously, that one thing will simplify so much for you that traveling becomes a legitimately close to stress-free option. If you have the option to choose vegetables, then do it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I will tell my clients, especially when you're at a restaurant, you're like, oh my God, I can't track it. I don't know how to track it, is whatever the meal is. Let's say it's steak and there's a potato and then broccoli. Ask them if you can have extra broccoli and then cut half the potato off and then put it to the side. Or ask them, hey, can you triple, the steamed veggies and just do half the rice? Always ask for more vegetables. You can always find salads, and salads are great. And I know some people are like, oh, but salads are boring. So you can always opt for a salad, but for other things, just ask for double the vegetables. And the aside that I put on this is really important. If you look at a menu and it says they have chicken, okay, in any way, whatever they do with it, and then you see on the side they have broccoli or whatever else, you can ask the waiter or waitress to just give you grilled chicken. Don't use any butter, and please, 2 orders of steamed vegetables. You can ask for whatever is on the menu. If they have chicken and they're serving chicken, they will make that chicken however you ask. If they have vegetables, they will make those vegetables however you ask. Don't be afraid of ordering what you want. Tell them what you want. They are there to take your order. If they can't do it, then they'll find out and come back to you. But 99% of the places are going to be able to make you chicken and some sort of vegetable. So never be afraid to advocate for yourself and your goals. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize that they're doing in that moment. They go, oh, well, I don't want to be a pain to the restaurant. I don't want to be that. No, the restaurant is there to serve you food. They want to sell you food. You have a right to advocate for yourself and stand up for you and what you want and your goals with the food that is there. They can make it for you. So just ask. You're not putting anyone off. You're not they're there to make the food how you need it. And they should want to do that, because then you will not leave them a bad Yelp review.
So true. Look, in reality, if you have the option to make a choice that takes care of you and your goals, do that. Truly, it's our responsibility as people with goals. And like Robbie said, the kitchen is there, the tools are there, the options are there. You will be amazed the first time you make an off menu request that you're not met with derision and anger. That the server is all right, cool, got it. and then from that point forward, you're going to be like, why haven't I done this all the time?
Yeah.
So the idea of choosing vegetables wherever we can, that's the last of our boulders. And like I said, what I really like about this blog is you kind of split it into 2 parts, and you took us into the overarching strategies that should govern all of our decision making, and then drilled it down into some really actionable tips that we can use specifically in an airport, a train station, a gas station, basically any of those moments that you found yourself on the brink while on the road of, okay, I am about to walk up to the cash register, and I can either make a choice that is going to be in line with my goals here, or I can make a choice that is going to make it really hard to stick with what I'm trying to make happen here. And the first option that you lay out for us is just recognizing that fruit is now your best friend, huh?
Whenever I'm traveling, right now I don't have any in my backpack because I'm not having to travel. But before I will travel, I will buy a bunch of Quest bars and I leave them in my backpack. If I'm on the plane, if I'm not on Delta, if Delta hands me those Bischoff cookies, I'm eating them. Oh, they're so good. Just Delta, you got me on that one. Yeah. Any other flight, I'm not eating whatever they hand me. I don't want what's at the airport. I'll eat that protein bar. But that can only keep you full for so long. However, at most airports, if they have a Hudson News, or even if it's just a little snack stand, you'll find fruit. They should have some apples or some bananas. If you need a couple of bananas, fine, a couple of bananas. If you need a couple of apples, a couple apples. Yes, they have carbs. But before you start freaking out about that, think about the better choice you're making. You are choosing carbs that have fiber and will stay in your stomach longer than a bag of Doritos that also has a lot of fat that is only going to leave you hungrier and you're going to want more. And then you're going to be mad because you want more food. And when you get somewhere, you're just be like, well, I already ate the Doritos. Screw it. I guess I'll just eat the 4-layer cheesecake. So get the bananas, get the apples. Yeah, they got carbs, but don't worry about it really because they're a better choice than eating 4 packs of Doritos. And you're getting all the micronutrients. And I like combining an apple with my protein bar.
Yep.
Because I get the fiber. You kind of get fiber from protein bars. Darn you, sugar alcohols. But you're getting the real fiber, from the apple. You're getting the micronutrients, and a protein bar and an apple will last me 4 hours. That's a pretty hefty flight. And I'm saving money because like I said earlier, I'm not buying an $11 chicken sandwich that makes me want to cry.
That actually weaves it perfectly into the second point you said is choose protein bars, protein shakes, or jerky whenever possible. And this is something that I don't think that people. Maybe people know, but they don't follow through as much as they should. Whenever you're rolling through a gas station and you're on a long road trip, whenever you're going on a flight and you got time to kill in the airport, or you're at a train station or whatever, and having a meal is something you're going to have to confront, it makes your life infinitely easier to just have a set rule that in these situations, my meal consists of a protein bar and a piece of fruit, or some beef jerky and a banana, or a protein shake and an apple, whatever the configuration is. Because like Robbie touched on, the opportunity cost is what actually matters here. You making that decision means that you're not making another decision that might be poorer for you given your goals or your priorities, right? It's one of those things that sure, maybe not fun, maybe not super sexy. Maybe it's not eating in the airport Chili's, and getting bacon ranch quesadillas or whatever it is. Sorry about it, but I'm sure your scale and your check-in will appreciate you doing that.
And one morning that I always give the clients with beef jerky, just know they're super high in sodium, so don't worry about eating beef jerky and then seeing the scale go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you've still chosen something with protein that is arguably going to be better for you than eating at the Chili's, and then also subsequently getting talked into ordering 2 Bloody Marys because they have a special of Bloody Marys. Airport Bloody Marys, I can't escape them.
Yeah, it's it's because the airport is a weird fictional multiverse where time isn't real. Time's not real anyways, but the rules don't matter.
Yeah, that's why I fly out early in the morning because I'm you can't serve me I can't order a Bloody Mary.
Yeah. Some people would say that's a lack of belief, but so option number 3 you lay down here is, I actually just want to dovetail this into the last point that you mentioned too, is choose coffee when you have it available to you. And the last bonus point, and I know you and I both practice this, is the idea of fasting. So can you kind of just hit me with why you chose both of those, how they tie in together, what your thoughts are, how you approach a travel day, that sort of thing?
This goes back
way
to
back.
when I first got into to all of this stuff, and coffee and fasting in the morning. That was the only thing you did. Black coffee, and you fasted in the morning.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, intermittent fasting isn't new. It's been around for more than a very, very long time. I mentioned fasting because it's something that coffee does have a slight hunger blunting effect. And you can get it at almost any airport. Again, this is black. Don't really put anything in it, but it can help blunt that hunger and make fasting easier if it's not something you do a lot and have not practiced that skill and have gotten used to it. But I like fasting as a travel strategy because if I have an early flight in the morning, I'm not worried about trying to eat at whatever weird sausage biscuit place is in this airport. Yeah. Or if there isn't any of that, I haven't been to the Burlington, Vermont airport in years. Maybe they've changed. But they had one bodega. That was it. Like, there's not a lot of food that's really worthwhile to choose there. Oh, you're going to get a kind bar? Cool. You're going to be hungry in 20 minutes. Like, there's not a lot of high return on investment, foods there. So skipping those foods and skipping that situation is sometimes better. It's more ideal. It leaves you more food for later on. But if you know you're going to, your flight's at 7 a.m., you're going to land at 10 a.m., cool. And maybe you push your first meal back to 10. Maybe not all the way to noon, but if you are usually eating at 7 a.m., you can go 3 more hours of not eating. You'll be fine. All good. If it's too long of a layover, like I said, munch on a protein bar and an apple halfway through your layover, you're going to be fine. It doesn't, again, one of the things about intermittent fasting is there are multiple ways to do it. What I do most of the time when I want to do it is I just stop eating my last meal, which is 7:30 at night, and I don't eat till noon the next day. If I'm traveling, it might be noon when I land. It might be 1 Central Time, which would be 2 Eastern. But I push that back, my first meal back till later in the day. It gives me more to play with later on. And within a couple of hours, honestly, you kind of stop feeling hungry. It's those initial hunger pains that you kind of have to get over, and coffee can help get rid of those. And then you just have to deal with being on the flight, and you're just like, guy in front of me, please do not recline your seat. Again, fasting will not work for everyone, which is why I say at the end, keep that emergency bag with beef jerky or protein bars or whatever on you at all times. And then you've got that with you. So at least you have a protein option. You grab an apple at the bodega or the Hudson News or whatever is there at the airport. You got your protein, your apple. That's your first meal of the day. Not sexy, but at least it's protein and it's not eating something gross and disgusting and way too expensive.
Because fasting is it's weird that it's a hot topic again. Robbie and I are internet weirdos who remember back in 2011, 2012, whenever it was a hot topic. Then it kind of fell out of favor, and now it's everybody loses their mind over it again. So, here's the thing to know that there's nothing inherently magical about fasting. Much of the research around fasting shows the same benefits that happen with fasting happen in a lower calorie state. So if you're in a calorie deficit, many of the benefits that fasting is supposed to bring are already happening for you. Where I do, and I think Robbie and I would both agree, is that there's fasting can be useful because it teaches you how to just accept hunger. You learn the skill of recognizing hunger, showing up, knocking on your door, and then recognizing that, you know what, I don't got to pay attention to you right now. I can move along with my day. And being able to have a skill like that to lean on in a travel day is intensely valuable, because it truly does. We mentioned opportunity cost earlier. Now opportunity cost doesn't even come into play, because since you have a fasting protocol to lean on and you know that you don't have to eat right now, you know that you don't even have to confront a decision. Instead, the decision has already been made for you, and it simplifies your life in that regard. Robbie mentioned that fasting is not for everybody, and it's certainly not. There are a lot of people who just legitimately hate it. Doc Bach is one of them. Jessica Bachman hates fasting. She tried it and she put it on an experiment for the blog. And it's within a few days, it's you know what? I recognize this is not for me. This is not my jam. And more power to her. That's fine. I think we're all comfortable in saying that in any sort of situation, we can count on Jessica Bachman to make a smart nutritional choice. So the ultimate thing here to come away from is that be willing to play around with different strategies and find out what works for you. You might try fasting and recognize wow, this wound up being way easier than I expected it to be. I might want to implement this more regularly here.
Again, it's something that the first time you do it, you're probably not going to like it. But if you're a frequent traveler, if you're hearing this first, have the conversation with your coach. Let them know that that's something you plan to do, so at least they know and they can work with you on it and work through that with you. The last thing I touch on is something that I kind of wanted to touch on real quick before we wrap up. I had a client who, at the drop of a hat, had to go to Europe for a few weeks. And one of the things that's really hard for us to do is oftentimes if we know we're going to be somewhere, tell ourselves that like, oh, well, I might not ever come back here again. I should enjoy all the things. And when I say all the things, I mean all the things. Like you go to France and you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be in France again. I'm going to eat all the pastries every morning, all day long, because you're afraid you're never going to get them again. None of us would ever tell you to not have those things. If you choose to do that on your goals, because your goals are that important to you, great. You've chosen to do that, and that is the choice you've made. But like I told my client, do the best you can at the meals you have control at. It was a work thing. She didn't have control over all her meals. She did at lunch and she did at breakfast. She enjoyed herself for some things that she wanted to try. And she was like, a few of the things were good, but the things that I didn't want to try, I didn't try them because I was like, well, I'm never going to come back here. She didn't do something she didn't want to do. So remember, you make that choice, but always just do the best that you can. Give yourself a breakfast where you go, I'm going to enjoy the local cuisine. Okay. The rest of the day, if you're in control of your food, be in control. The next day, maybe you enjoy a lunch. And then the next day, maybe it's a dinner. But have control over the things you can have control of that. And that's one of the things I will tell people, who travel often or are going on vacation is that let's talk about your goals and let's talk about how to fit these things in and just know that you're making the choice that, hey, maybe I'm not choosing the most ideal thing here, but I may never be back at this place. Now, if you're constantly traveling for business, that doesn't mean, well, I'm never going to come back to Texas again. I guess I'll just have more of this pecan pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably going to have pecan pie somewhere else. You have to make sure that you're making the right choices for you and where you're at. But if you're traveling often, you have to figure out what is the right choice for you, every time you travel. So, it becomes more of a mental game sometimes in figuring all this stuff out.
Yeah, and that's if you do travel regularly and you're just starting or you've been struggling to find a way to work stronger you into your travel approach and that sort of thing. One of the things that I hope everybody understands is that it does also just take reps. It takes time. It takes reps to go on trips and do things and give it a try and work on strategies and come back from it and then evaluate what went on and where you think you might want to improve in the future, or where you think what, I'm glad that I made that choice. And then just try and implement that in your next trip, right? Because there's never a test at the end of this, right? You don't have to have it all figured out by a specific date. You can keep practicing and keep finding ways to figure it out for as long as you want to. So don't put the pressure of a false deadline on yourself there.
Dude, false deadlines are the number one thing I would tell anyone to never put on yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Dude, but the thing is, we all implicitly do it, whether we mean to or not.
Yeah.
It's like whenever someone's in a session and they have an off week and they're like, now I'm ruined. I'm the rest of my session is down the drain. And it's but why? Just because your session is 12 weeks doesn't mean your effort is 12 weeks.
Right.
I might need to meme that. That was good. But and here's the reality, we all do it, right? So it's I'm saying this just as much as a reminder for myself, but be willing to ask yourself, am I putting a deadline on this that doesn't need to be there? Because sometimes you might be surprised that why am I doing that? What's going on? Well, listen, Farlow, we're getting to the end of this, man. Is there anything else you want to share with anybody? Any parting wisdom you want to drop on folks that's travel related at all?
Honestly, I would say just stay hydrated, especially if you're flying. That can mess with hydration. If you're going to be at the airport for a while, if it's a really long flight, walk as much as you can before you get on the flight because you're going to be squished for a few hours, or you can be a weirdo who goes and stretches in the bathroom. Yeah. If you're driving, take breaks, stretch a little while you're there, do some jumping jacks, get the blood moving. But in today's world, with travel, the biggest thing you can do is just plan ahead. Plan the best you can. If you can go in with the big boulders and front load protein, eat protein and vegetables when you can, at least look at the choices you'll have at restaurants. and create a plan for how to attack things, you're going to be fine. 1 week of travel is not going to mess up your progress. If you're constantly on the road, things are going to be a little different for you. We're going to have to tweak things a little bit. We're going to have to approach all of this slightly differently. But that's okay. And it might also mean that, like, for you got to eat really boring foods a lot of the time.
Yep.
So that you're not constantly eating all the delicious things that aren't that great for you. I won't say bad, but all the stuff that doesn't help you achieve your goals. Just plan, talk with your coach, work something out, use some of these strategies, see what works for you. If fasting doesn't work for you, don't do it. If you don't want to buy apples at a newspaper stand in an airport, don't buy apples at a newspaper stand. If you don't want to pack protein, you don't have to pack protein. It's just going to be a little harder to get a lot of protein on the road. Find what works for you and then use it, and just use it all the time.
I have nothing else to add there. I think Farlow has covered it pretty extensively here. I guess just remember, like, travel and being good at it takes reps and it takes time, and don't beat yourself up if not every trip is perfect, because that happens to all of us, including the both of us speaking right now. So whenever we say that, we only say it from experience.
Yep.
Well, listen, friends, Farlow, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for putting the blog together for us. It's one of the few things that I like about you, that you're willing to do things like this. So maybe like thing 3 or 4. Kidding. I love the Reverend Robbie Farlow. To all of you listening at home, thank you so much for joining us. Whether or not you're commuting or whatever you're doing, thanks for listening to us ramble. And be sure and pull this one up again before your next trip. All right? Be on the lookout for the next episode. Talk to you guys later.
Stronger You Radio is a broadcast wellness production powered by StrongerUFit.com. Content copyright Stronger You. Executive producer Frank Sardella. Thanks for listening to Stronger You Radio. For more information on the podcast, visit StrongerUPodcast.com.